And we're back with episode 38 of Dog Football Weekly. It's your host, Reed, with the co host.
Russ.
And today, Russ, been a little banged up, been a little off the air for a while, but we're back today. Obviously, 2 days ago, we witnessed one of the more heartbreaking losses for this team. The 29-game win streak snapped. Russ, just give me your initial thoughts on the game. Give me your initial thoughts on the officiating and kind of tell me where you think this game went south for the Dogs.
I think in ways we kind of beat ourselves, but in ways the officials kind of took over the game and messed up some things for us. All night, the holding, Alabama's O-line was holding our D-line so bad all night. Did not get a call. And obviously the dropped catch on, was that fourth down or third down?
It was fourth.
Fourth down,
yep.
So that's a turnover on downs. But they had to review Arian Smith's catch. And, but, that's not the only thing that beat us. Obviously, we had the fumble on, like, the 10-yard line. I'm blanking. Fumbled, the offsides penalty, which is debatable because
the crappy punt too. That in the first half gave him the ball on the 43-yard line on our 43, and then just set up a field goal.
The thing is, you just can't make crucial mistakes against Alabama like that. They're just going to take it and run with it, and that's all there is to it. You've got to play them as perfect as you can, or they're going to find a way to beat you. And that's what happened, Do I think they deserve to be in the playoffs? I think they're one of the four best teams, but I don't think they deserve to be in over Florida State because Florida State was undefeated. And just because they don't have their quarterback doesn't mean that they're just terrible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. In my eyes, what I saw in that game, and a lot of people are complaining about officiating, and was it a great call? Was it a well-called game? No, it wasn't. Were there a lot of missed calls? Yes, but I think that fourth down play is crucial. Obviously, if you get that call overturned, which it would have been questionable, and they may have not overturned it if they reviewed it because they called it a catch on the field, so there had to be some irrefutable evidence against it. But to me, what really cost this team the game was, I thought they played, and people were complaining in the stadium, this defense can't get a stop, which in the first half, Alabama really did what they wanted offensively for a couple drives. But, you give up 27 on the scoreboard, but in reality, you give up 21 points. You turn the ball over inside your own 15-yard line. That's not on your defense. Your punter, Brett Thorson, who's punted very well over the last 2 years, shakes a punt, and they get the ball on your 45, 42, whatever yard marker it was, and then that sets up another field goal for them. So it's not all on this defense. I didn't expect that offense to go out and get shut out. Not shut out, but play as poorly as they did. Really, the thing to me that really frustrated me the most was that I feel like Georgia kind of went away from their identity that they found in the last couple of games, and I feel like that hurt them. I felt like they tried to outthink Alabama, outthink Nick Saban, and by doing that, they hurt themselves offensively. They hurt themselves. Really, the main part that really I thought they hurt themselves in was short yardage.
Yeah, just not being able to convert. Struggle with that a little bit during the regular season.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
And I love Dejon Edwards, and I think he's a great back. But Kendall Milton, it's hard to deny what he's been doing the past month of the season and all the work he's put in, and really just a phenomenal couple of games he's had. And I don't see how you go to him on your first drive and he breaks a 25-yard touchdown run, and then you go away from your inside run game, and then every single time you're 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3. We ran the same exact pitch play, just pitch it out, which, that's fine if it's going to work. But, I think Alabama's defense is strongest in that secondary. And they came up and made plays, and they stopped it.
the pitch play was definitely not the best third down calls for Georgia. What do you think about Alabama being, in the playoffs and the playoffs in general?
In my mind, do I think Alabama is one of the best four teams? No doubt. But I don't think the playoff is so much of a best four teams, more like a most deserving teams, the top four teams that deserve it the most. And I get it. I think Alabama's going to win the national title. This isn't a debate on whether they deserve, whether they're going to win or not. I think they're going to wipe the floor with Michigan. I think they'll beat Texas if they play Texas again or Washington. I don't think it matters. But in my mind, you have a team that got beat by 10 points at home. They did win the SEC, but the SEC kind of had a down year this year. And I think they have the best win out of anybody else, but a 13-0 Florida State team that did everything they were supposed to do, has the big win over LSU, beats Louisville. It wasn't pretty, but it was dominant. I think that's what a lot of people are kind of upset about, or they're like, or these people who are on this Alabama, they're like, well, they only won by 10 against Louisville. Well, it was dominant. It was not a ball game. At any point in that game, did anybody go, oh, I think Louisville's in this one? No, it was clear from the beginning Florida State was going to win that football game. And I think if we use the same logic as for letting Alabama in, I think Georgia should have been in too. Then, if we're going to go with the best four, then get Washington out of there too and make it Michigan, Georgia, Bama, Texas. And I don't think you go ahead.
Well, they're putting Washington in there because Penix is Heisman candidate and all this stuff. So they're obviously going to put Washington in there just because they had a spectacular year, I guess you would say.
Yeah.
Beating Oregon being their pretty much biggest win, I guess.
Yeah, and I don't think I think for Florida State fans and for Florida State, I think there's really only one. I don't think you can blame the committee because either way they win. If they put Florida State in, if they put Alabama in, somebody's going to be left out. Somebody's going to be mad. I think you have to be mad. If you're Florida State, you got to be mad with TCU. The committee, like everybody today's on all sports talk radios, been like, oh, there's no bias, there's no agenda for the committee, and that's just a lie. The College Football Playoff Committee last year put in TCU, which is a smaller brand, smaller school, not really a football school, not a lot of tradition there, and TCU got beat 65-7 in the national championship. Make no mistake, if Florida State got in and played Michigan, I don't think it would be an extremely close ball game. I don't think it'd be highly of anticipated as a ball game as Michigan versus Alabama in Pasadena, California will be. And I think that's part of the issue, and I think that's part of the reason why they got left out. I think they deserve it, but I think the committee is more concerned about kind of building the two best games or building two games that are going to be watched more than a game that isn't. And I think that's the main reason why Florida State's playing in the Orange Bowl against Georgia and they're not playing in a Rose Bowl.
That's a good take, and I really agree with you. And Florida State's going to take on Georgia in the Orange Bowl. I mean, what do you expect to see from this Georgia team after a loss in the SEC championship and missing the playoffs?
I think you're going to see two dejected teams come out and play. I don't even know if I'll watch the game, but not very closely. I think you're going to see two heartbroken teams. Obviously, Florida State probably more so than Georgia. But, Georgia's already there's a list of guys expected to sit. I think that, people complain, these guys shouldn't be sitting for bowl games. Brock Bowers shouldn't play in this game. Ladd McConkey shouldn't play in this game. All your top guys, Javon Bullard, Kamara, they shouldn't be playing in this ball game because this game doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything for their legacy. Winning the Orange Bowl does not mean anything for the guys that have won 2 titles, multi-time All-Americans. It doesn't mean anything for them. And obviously in this game, I think it can either go one or two ways. I think Georgia could come out and play like the Georgia team that we've seen all year, and I think they could realistically kill Florida State. But I don't think that'll happen. I think it'll be a relatively close game. just kind of ugly football. You'll see a lot of your young guys. You'll see a lot of guys play that really haven't got a whole lot of time all year because there's going to be so many guys sitting. And I think it'll be a good learning opportunity for this team and really help if they win a really big kind of boost going into next season, going into 2024.
And, as we're winding down the season, we see, the end of Brock Bowers at Georgia. How is his loss going to affect the team?
I think there's an argument that I think he's definitely, you have Herschel Walker, your Heisman winner, but I think he's the second best Bulldog all time. I think he's the best football player, not the best at a position. I think he's the best football player to come through the University of Georgia with all the stuff he's done, whether it's through his blocking, through his pass catching, running the football. I mean, he's done everything for the past 3 seasons. What I hate is that he didn't get to go out on the biggest stage. He got to go out in Atlanta. He's been battling injuries all really the second half of the season, and he's made some big time plays and he's played a big role in these games, but he really hadn't been 100%. Um, and really, I just feel, I'm just grateful to have a player of that caliber, to have an all time player at the position, and just see somebody be so dominant over the past 2 years, really 3 years. And I'm just, it's sad to see him go, but I'm also at the same time excited to see what he's going to do at the next level. And I'm excited to see where he ends up and who ends up really using him to his full potential.
Yeah, and it's always next man up at the University of Georgia. So
I didn't even answer your question. I'm sorry. To me, I think Oscar Delp is going to be a very good tight end next year. I think he's learned a lot this season. He's played a good bit of football. I think he's going to be a key piece next year. I think Lawson Lucky's going to make big strides. Pierce Spurlin's going to play more football. I think this team will be fine without him. It's hard to say right now because we haven't really seen them. We really don't know what Georgia's going to have left, depending on who declares for the draft, who stays, who enters the portal. I think Georgia has a surplus of weapons. I think they'll be fine. I think they'll make it.
Is there any particular position that you're looking forward to see or player, next year, and over the course of the spring and all that?
I definitely say I'd probably say two guys, or really three. Michael Williams, Marvin Jones Jr., and I'd say Malachi Starks. Michael, obviously, he had the sensational freshman year. He's splitting time this year, battling some more injuries. He missed some time in the spring with injury. But this year's going to be kind of his. You can call it his money year. If he has a really big year in 2024, he's going to be a high draft pick. I think he's circled on scouts boards as a big time, big name guy. Marvin Jones Jr. He really hadn't gotten on the field as much as I would have liked him to this year, but when he's been on the field, he's made some big time plays. I think his versatility as an outside linebacker and edge rusher is unique to him. He's got great speed and he's got great talent. And then Malachi Starks, he's been a day one starter since he came in the program. Really, a lot of people are talking about losing Brock and all that. The main thing that I'm gonna miss from this team, especially in 2023, is just like the unbelievable secondary you had. Really, the trio of I'd say quartet, that Kamari Lassiter, Malachi Starks, Javon Bullard, and Tyke Smith. Those are four All-American caliber players, and you didn't have the defensive line or the front seven that you've had in the past 2 seasons, but this secondary you've had this year has been unbelievable on all levels.
Are you looking at any players that potentially first rounders? I mean, like in the draft, who do you think is first round, second round talent? Stuff like that.
I think Brock Bowers is the clear cut your first round guy. I think Amarius Mims, if he declares, will pick up some steam heading into the draft just based off his sheer size and talent. Then there's some borderline guys that I really don't know, and it's all kind of depending on how they perform at the combine. I think Kamari Lassiter will end up being a first round pick. I mean, he's been unbelievable these past 2 seasons. And then there's guys like Ladd who, they've been kind of, he hadn't really gotten to fully display his skills all year due to injury, but we know who he is as a football player, and I think he'll end up being a second round or third round pick. And then Javon Bullard, I think he's a first round or second round pick on that defense. But yeah, I think it'll really shape up more as we get closer to the draft, and definitely as we close out these last two big ball games, because really a lot of stuff can happen in these last two games, and there can be guys that make names for themselves in these playoff games that anybody who likes football is going to be watching. So we really don't know just yet, but it'll be I definitely would say three Bulldogs, Brock, Mims, and Kamari. Those are my three that I think will go in the first round. What about you?
Yeah, I like your picks. Um, Bullard, probably. I mean, borderline. But other than that, I think that's about everybody. I hope I'm not forgetting anybody.
Here's my question for you, Russ. Now that we're sitting here, the 2023 season's basically over. Give me a word, give me a phrase, give me your reaction to this season. Is it a success? Is it a failure? What do you think about the job that Kirby's done? And I guess this is year 7 or year 8.
Well, listen, it's not the outcome that everybody was hoping for and maybe expected. But it's one of those stepping stones that you got to get over to be a dominant dynasty in college football. Kirby is doing an amazing job at bringing in guys and making guys commit to the program, and I love that. And as long as Kirby's at Georgia, I think we're in good hands. And, I don't think this season was at all a bad season. Mm-hmm. It's just one of those seasons that's just not quite what you want it to be. But yeah, I think next year, tougher schedule, or they would say, but we're looking to go back to the playoffs next year and make a run ahead.
I think it's something that, we've grown, and, we're spoiled as Georgia fans these past 2 seasons to see two title teams and to win 2 titles when they haven't won a title in 40 years. And, I think Kirby Smart has done the best job with this program and transforming it into something where it is now a dynasty. It's now a powerhouse. And I don't think this season is a disappointment or anything like that. I think the college football playoff only admitting 4 teams a year is the biggest disappointment for this team this year, because I don't want to make the mistake about it. I think that Georgia has the best top to bottom roster in college football. I think if Georgia got in, and even if Alabama's in there again, I think Georgia would beat them. I think this team is too good to lose another game fully healthy. I think that if this is a 12-team playoff, if this same scenario happened next season, I think Georgia's winning 3 in a row.
Yeah, the 12-team playoff for Georgia is like the best thing that could happen. Yeah. Just because we're always right there,
on the cusp.
Are they going to get in? Are they not going to get in? Georgia's going to be a top 12 team for the next 20 years.
Yep.
And we're going to be in the playoffs every single year.
Yeah, and I think that watching, this team, the growth in it, the development in it, I think it's hard to deny, what this team was in week 3 against South Carolina versus what they are now. It's undeniable how much better this team's gotten, and I think you can attribute it all to Kirby. and his system and his work ethic and what his staff has done. And some people are out there, I can't believe it. We're not in the playoff. This year wasn't this. This year what? I couldn't be more proud of this team. I couldn't be more proud of what they've accomplished the last 3 seasons. And I think that winning 29 straight games is the most remarkable thing that I could have ever imagined as a Georgia fan. Holding the SEC all time record and seeing all these wins just piled one on top of the other. I think, and what is he like 44 or like 42-2 in his last like four? He's like 43-2 in his last 45. That's unbelievable, and I couldn't be more proud of it.
Yeah, no disappointments in the team at all for me.
Well, Russ, that's going to be it for today's episode of Dog Football Weekly. We hope you enjoy.